Hey guys, welcome to another video. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Today we are interviewing Bristol Turtle Chick. We asked her some questions that you guys wanted to ask. I asked her a few of my own, and then we decided to do a little role reversal, and she answered some questions as if an auditor would. I thought that could be quite interesting, and it turned out to be quite interesting. This is a great interview. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. So let's go ahead and get started. Very special guest, Bristol Turtle Chick. She's willing to answer a couple questions for us. How you doing, Bristol?
I'm good. Thank you for calling me very special.
Well, just I'm pretty sure I told you, but you and Josh are pretty much the reason why I got started doing YouTube videos the way you would just because you guys Turtle Boy Sports was always coming with facts and just were able to back everything up, and I really respected that. And Josh was not doing that, and every time he did, it just pissed me off more and more and more. And then finally, he did one thing, and I was like, forget it. I'm just gonna go ahead and start a YouTube channel. So I did, and here we are.
I'm glad you did because you're doing a great job.
Why, thank you. I'm definitely glad you think so. I'm actually really glad at the growth I've had so far. I mean, it's not that big, but it's a lot more than I initially hoped I was gonna get. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the questions. First, how and when did you get involved with Turtle Boy Sports?
So it's actually kind of a funny story. I got involved with Turtle Boy Sports about 2 years ago. I had actually gotten into an online kind of argument battle with Brett, who is the Turtle Boy Live co-host, and we had gone back and forth for several days, just really insulting each other pretty hardcore. I think you can still find it if you look on Facebook somewhere out there on the interwebs. And a couple days later, Uncle Turtle Boy had actually private messaged me and asked me if I wanted to start blogging, and I thought that I was being punked. So it took me like a good 2 days to finally be like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And I wrote my first blog for him. He looked it over and he was like, wow, this is great. And I just kind of got off and running. I had been reading the blog for years anyway because it's sort of like a Massachusetts little cult phenomenon. I always loved it. But he had just kind of randomly reached out to me after I had some big battle royale online with Brett, and that's kind of how it all started there.
Okay, that's really cool. I'm not sure I know who Brett is, but no, yeah, he's the other guy that's usually on with
on Saturdays.
Yeah, okay, yeah, gotcha.
We get along fine now, but we did we really used to battle pretty hard back and forth because I don't back down from a fight, and neither does he.
That's great. Yeah, you don't back down from a fight, and that's one of the things that people I think they either respect that of you or they dislike that about you. It's
absolutely.
It's never really like you're polarizing. Let's put it that way. Definitely, there's not like a whole lot of middle ground. Either they really like you or they really don't. I found that interesting. All right, so next, how about what are your thoughts and your views on the auditing as a form of activism? Is it successful? Is it not successful? Maybe some things that they could do to help them if you view they could.
I mean, that's kind of a tough question. When I'm looking at auditors and I'm really talking about them, I'm not talking about people that I consider to have any real motivation for activism. I understand that there are people out there that do this and do a good job, at what they do. I look at more of the ones that are doing this for money, right? Like, I don't think that starting conflict with anyone and monopolizing on that necessarily is a form of activism or it's particularly effective. So, I mean, I don't know. I think at one point they did this movement, if you want to call it that, did a lot of good in the fact that it created a sense of transparency and kind of put the lens on misconduct by police. I also think that at this point we're past that point to a certain extent because there is just a with the internet and body cams and the conversation that's been going on for several years now, there's a lot more transparency than there has been. And I think with any sort of form of activism, the goal is to alleviate or solve problems. So as the issues change, then the activism needs to change with it. So the fact that you've got people out there that are doing the same things that maybe were effective 3, 4, 5 years ago now isn't really indicative, that they're really trying to make a change, because there should be some evolution that I just don't necessarily see happening.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Whenever people like go in my comment section and say, "Well, we do this," and I always try and tell them, "Well, okay, that's great, but you're telling this to street level people. You're telling this to police officers. What do you expect them to do? You need to take this to city council meetings. If you have an alderman, your alderman, or take it to somebody that actually can get something done, as opposed to just arguing with a police officer that is going to follow the chain of command because he is low man on the totem pole."
Right. And I mean, we're not seeing a lot of police misconduct being uncovered anymore. Not that it never happens. I wouldn't say that. It's not that it never happens, but more and more, you're encountering police officers that, for all intents and purposes, are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're still human beings. So if you're going to call somebody a cocksucker and tell them that they beat their wife and yell at them for 15 minutes straight, like, you're going to elicit a reaction. I wouldn't consider that activism or particularly positive at all. It's not really making any good changes. What's going to happen, and what we're seeing happening in upstate New York right now, is they're actually changing laws that are fundamentally taking people's rights away to film their interactions with the police, interact with the police. It sours the community law enforcement relationship. You've got people who are putting out this narrative that they're constructing that breeds some sort of distrust in law enforcement that's already kind of, there's fertile ground for that anyway. And you're also creating a climate where law enforcement may not be trusting citizens and the public as much anymore, because they don't know what the intentions are. They're being bothered at work.
Yes, exactly. And nobody deserves to be bothered at work. And one instance that really I noticed, I just actually saw this instance the other day. It was with Doug. No thanks, and I'm not sure who he was
Oh
with.
God.
The hospital situation,
Yeah, yeah.
and they were talking to the hospital lady like she was a public employee, and it's like, well, hospitals, like, dude, like, there's not that many hospitals that are federally funded. I mean, they didn't even do the research. He was just in the moment. He was going with his the buzzwords the auditors use without even really doing his homework to find out that hospital is privately owned. She was not
Right.
a public official. I mean, I've
Yeah, not
noticed.
only are they private sector, but a lot of things that go on in hospitals are covered by HIPAA protection laws, right? Like,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's just that's one thing. And the reason I brought that is because I saw Bill Dado. He had an interview with Doug No thanks. And the biggest thing I took away from that interview was that I found a lot auditors and law enforcement are more alike than they would like to realize. You know?
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of auditors maybe would love to have what they perceive as the sense of power that law enforcement has. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I think that there's something sort of rooted in, like, you look at like Josh Abrams, who used to kind of start to use the terminology and take the affect and air of what he thought law enforcement was like. I don't. I think the difference between auditors and law enforcement is that law enforcement has some semblance of oversight, and that this behavior would not be publicly egged on. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's
Yeah.
going to see a police officer bothering some guy on the side of the road, and the public's not going to go on YouTube and go, "Yeah, you should do more of that," which tends to be the climate that a lot of these auditors kind of pigeonhole themselves in and stick to, this echo chamber of, like, this is a great thing that you're doing, and it's not. It's not. I wouldn't treat the girl that makes my coffee in the morning the way that they treat police officers. It's a job. They're people.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. All right, so let's move on to the next question. So speaking of activism, so do you yourself do any activism or any kind of maybe charity work? Because I know Aiden does a lot of charity work, so I was curious. Maybe do you do it as well?
Um, Aiden does not actually do a lot of charity work. I mean, not that, I would say that he's not like a charitable, but he runs the blog, and that's it. I don't do any activism, I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm kind of like a glorified online troll. I do a fair amount of charity work. I do it kind of quietly. I don't like to, like, blow up and talk about this a lot. I did reference it when I had my little controversial quote unquote debate with Will Turbot, just to kind of, explain it, sort of, when you're being charitable, right? Like, you have some sort of proof or receipts to back it up. So what I've been doing since I started blogging with Turtle Boy Sports is I make a little bit of money off of it. It's not a lot. It never has been, you know what I mean? But I've always donated it. That's what I've always done, just for a couple reasons. Number one, because I do want to make an impact in the community around me, and we're a local kind of concentrated blog, and I like to give back to the community that's supporting us, as well as I never wanted the financial aspect to start really influencing my writing, right? I didn't want to start writing, picking things up that were profitable, because that kind of makes it disingenuous. So I've probably donated to somewhere around 25 different charities at this point. Usually, $300, $400, $500 a month, nothing huge or, earth shattering, but I like to do that. Sometimes I ask, my readers for input on a charity that they'd like. Sometimes I just kind of pick it depending on what I've been writing about that month. And then, we do a little bit of outreach work as well. I've cooked dinner for homeless shelters. Jeremiah's Inn comes to mind, which is a men's shelter for recovering addicts. We've done some coat drives, things like that. And animal shelters, of course. We're big animal people, so I've raised money for several different animal shelters.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so now I want to get to the part of the interview. We're going to do like a role reversal to where you're going to answer, I would like you to answer these next couple of questions as if you were defending auditing as opposed to what you normally do is, call out the bullshit that goes on with them. Sound good?
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. So, first one. All right. So, attacking street level officers over departmental or state level offenses is a waste of time. What would you say if someone said that if you were trying to support activists auditing?
I would say, that's so tough. You got to make statements I agree with.
Can't make it easy.
No, I appreciate that. I would say that I am bringing the conversation to these street level police so that they are mindful of these issues, and that I'm putting it on YouTube so that the community can have a conversation about these issues.
Okay. That sounds good. All right, and let's do one more. This one is really, this one's really for me. All right, here we go. So, can you give me an argument for the banning of the blue line flag?
Holy mother of God!
Right?
It's a gang symbol. It represents the thin blue line of silence and that flag code violations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the enforceable flag code was rescinded in 1989.
I know.
Like less than a year after they said they lost the case, and then a year later they're like, okay, well we're gonna do the Flag Act, and then someone said, no, and that got taken down a year later, and they're actually still trying to get it to make it offensive. And the last time I looked, I think they were like 3 votes shy of amending it. So that's it could happen. Maybe even in our lifetime it might happen.
I don't know. I mean, let's start banning American flag bikinis then too. It's just ludicrous to me. I mean, totally I believe as much as I hate to see flag burning, right? Like it just freaking salts me to the core.
Right.
But I recognize it as a constitutionally protected act, right? Like,
exactly.
And I don't like it or agree with it, but I mean, if you can constitutionally, burn a flag, then you can make it black and white, put a blue line through it. And you know what? Like, it raises morale. That's fine. I don't necessarily I get called a bootlicker a lot. I do take some offense to that because we've broken about 4 different Massachusetts state police scandals. Like, we go down to court records, payroll, their financial statements, books, talk to cops that give us information about other maybe not so good cops. Like, we have absolutely held the police accountable. I don't consider myself a bootlicker, but I don't have anything against them either. You know what I mean? Like, I find it to be a necessary public service, and I know that they're human beings. There are plenty of good cops. There's some bad cops. I also understand that a lot of the bad cops are the nicest people you'll ever meet in public. The community loves them. I've seen that time and time again. So, I mean, catching them on camera does not necessarily always catch the misdeeds.
Oh, no, not at all. I would totally agree with you. Okay, so now I posted a video earlier and I encouraged people to give me some questions to ask you. So now you're going to be put on the spot by some of your fans. No
Sure.
critics, though. No critics said anything.
I
So,
don't mind the critics either.
oh, I'm
You
sure, but
know?
I would have asked you too, but yeah, no one did. I'm surprised. Well, if I would have done this like on Furry Potato, oh my goodness. I've had so much hate just from the Furry Potato thing I did. I'm like, wow, Furry Potato's like followers are just like,
Oh, they're
wow.
rabid. I know, and that's another one that's just chasing lawsuits left
Yeah,
and right. That's
yeah.
what she does.
Okay, so the first couple questions are from 8675309 Jenny.
I love her.
Yes, she is great. So she wants to know who the biggest douchebag that you have blogged about ever.
Oh my gosh. You know what? This is an old one, but I still have to say it. It would have to be Michael Cadena of Weymouth, Massachusetts. That was one of my first blogs. It's been like well over a year, but I freaking hate that guy. Like he was a huge douche. He'll like permanently be seared in my mind as probably the biggest douchebag I've ever written about.
Right on. Well, I mean, not right on, but yeah. All right. So she also would like to know who has been the most reoccurring person you've ever blogged about.
I mean, Josh Abrams is right up. I mean, we just wrote copious amounts of blogs. It wasn't. I wrote the majority of the Josh Abrams blogs because I was the first one to pick up on him, and I developed a particularly big dislike for him. But he actually might be tied with Mike Cadena. That every once in a while we just get a character in there that cannot stop doing ridiculous stuff online. Like just
right?
one after the other. And every time you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm getting tired of this. And then they do something else and you're like, oh shit, now I can't be done because that was just absolutely absurd. But it would either be, I think, Josh or Mike Cadena. I'm not sure. I would have to go back and check. And they're pretty close, if not tied.
Yeah. I was kind of worried when he got locked. I'm like, I don't have any. I'm not going to have a whole lot to write about. But I'm like, no, what am I talking about? There's so many auditors doing stupid things.
There are a lot of them, yeah.
And then auditing the USA came about. And, oh my God.
Oh my God. He's delightful. Yeah. What a fucking moron he is. That's what we call him. Selma's pet moron. That guy is. We have like a kind of an over-under pool going about how long it takes before he tries to shoot a cop because his behavior is just sketchy, right? Like, why are you always trying to get in the back of your car, sir?
Yeah. Have you noticed also, like, since he found out that he had this warning on him, he's actually been a lot more subdued in his the way he's approaching audit. So I'm really starting to think that maybe he's doing a parody of it. And
I don't think so at all. No, I've looked into his criminal record, right? And I mean, it's not like Anselmo or Josh Abrams level, but some of his arrest record, some of his offenses are right in line with this sort of crappy behavior, like protection orders and harassing calls and things like that. I think he might actually have. Oh God, I'm like trying so hard not to use this word that's so offensive. I think he may be developmentally delayed. Like, I think he might be slow because, like, the way that he comes off, his catchphrase is just, that's illegal, that's illegal, that's illegal. I'm not accepting this ticket. I reject that. Like, that's not how the law works. Who told you that?
My all-time favorite was when some lady said, you should have recorded me, freedom of the press, Fourth Amendment. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was... Okay, we're getting a little confused there. Yeah. You're about 3 off there. I like when they give him a ticket and he's like, I do not accept this ticket. It is illegitimate. Like, nah. Or like too when I had commented something like, you're an idiot. And he goes, I've been waiting for you. How are you going to fare against someone like me? Like, is this a joke?
Wow, that's interesting. He was expecting
a joke. I think at this point I have the auditing community freaking hates me. Like, I am just the scourge of, I can be just about anywhere on the internet and without fail somebody that has like a cop gang something or other, like meme on their profile or something, will be like, you're a fat bitch. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's not wrong. Fair enough.
All right. And she has one more question. Have you ever received any type of retaliation from blogging about the people you blog about?
I get more threats than I do actually follow through. I will say that at one point Antifa had figured out my place of employment and they called my job. It was only a couple days, but probably a total of like 30 times.
Wow.
I just, for all intents and purposes, I'm kind of self-employed. I work in residential property management and I have my own portfolio. So I mean, I essentially run my own show there. So they didn't realize that every time they called, they were getting either the answering service that was going to patch the call to me, or they were getting me. And I just fucked with them until I was like, oh my God, hate speech? Yeah, we're going to deal with her right away. Thank you so much for calling. And after a couple of days, they just kind of knocked it off. And other than that, like, no, not really. I know Joe Orga was looking for my car the other day, but I mean, a lot of these people, they're all talk. They're not going to do much of
Yeah.
anything at all because they're cowards.
Yeah. Speaking of Oregon, I actually saw a video, or maybe it was a Facebook post. Actually, I think it was on one of Turtle Boy blogs that he actually went to some lady's house and
Mm-hmm.
started filming in front of it.
Oh yeah, no, he's done. That I mean, I catfished him, right? And that was like, I thought it was funny. It was,
It was.
terrible at the same time. And people were like, I actually kind of feel bad for him. And my response is, don't, because he does this crap all the time. Like I was trying to explain in that video, it was about a year ago, almost to the day, I think in February maybe. He had a blog written about him by another blogger. It wasn't even me. It happened to be a female, and she had the word girl in her pen name or whatever. So he happens to be at the Providence police station, and he sees a woman, and she's wearing a Turtle Boy hoodie, which, I mean, we do sell them. Sometimes it happens. Like,
Yeah,
we're pretty
right.
regionalized. And he started filming her and following her around, and puts her up on the internet with this video with like a turtle peeing on her face and stuff. And he's taunting me. I found you. I outed you. And I'm like, nah, bro. I was at work. I don't know who that is. And it was really creepy and offensive. And I was like, I'm gonna get this motherfucker. And then at one point, he had also he must have had an issue with a cop. Not that that's new, but he actually figured out who the cop's wife was, stalked her car back to her house, and then took a picture of it in front of her house and put it on the internet. And he kind of got cannibalized by his own community because even a lot of them were like, too far, dude. So like he does this shit all the time. He's like a level 10 creeper.
Yeah, that just sounds like some
Yeah.
of the stuff. It's like trying to legalize stalking almost. It's
He's
pretty
weird.
bad. Yeah,
He's weird.
definitely. Okay, and the next question, well, it's a comment and a question, come from Christine Mackle. She wanted me to let you know that you're awesome,
Oh, Christine's awesome too.
and she wants to know: Are you going to investigate any other auditors, or are you going to stick with the East Coast auditors?
We've delved into like PayPal Patty and Rafi Earl, David Warden a little bit. Like we're not just stuck on the East Coast. The only thing I can say is we're taking like a couple week break from auditors because I have a true crime case that came in actually about a police officer, and we wanted to be fair and balanced as well. This is just like a fascinating case, and I get bored easily, and there's just so much content with these auditors that I don't want to burn myself out and a month down the line be like never doing that again because there's a lot there.
There's
So like yeah, no, I mean we could do that for 3 years straight, but it would get boring. So we're not done with them, but I am taking a little break.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to true crime is like a passion of mine. I really enjoy true crime, so I'm definitely looking forward to see what you guys
Yeah,
uncover.
this case is why. I mean, we're going through all the court documents now. The docket alone is over 1,000 pages. That's why, like this
Oh
Sunday, we were like, we're
wow!
not even going to go on because there's just so much to unpack here. Yeah,
All right, that's going to be wonderful.
yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, so this next question is from Maggie. She wants to know: Will you reach out to Josh Abrams for a jailhouse interview?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Josh is the issue with Josh is that he's such a prolific liar that at some point it becomes almost it's not even amusing anymore. It's just beating a dead horse and nothing he says is true. Probably not. Number one, because I don't know the rules on that. Number two, because Josh and I have a very odd relationship. He decided he hates Turtle Boy as in Uncle Turtle Boy, but he was okay with me, which just flabbergasted me because I attack him like regularly and pretty hard. But he really wanted to convince me for a while. He actually was calling me, right?
Oh wow!
Like off camera, like, calling me and like, I don't know if chatting's the word, but trying to convince me that he's a good person. He asked me at one point if I would do a lie detector test on Hot Tow Truck Girl on my live, because he was convinced that I had like an ex-FBI agent or someone that could do a lie detector test. And I was
wow.
like, right, like, no, I don't have contacts like that. I mean, like, no. And even if I did, like, that's just really morally reprehensible. Even I have a line, and you just found it, sir. Like, so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Josh is Josh. Josh is going to reap exactly what he's sown. I don't think he's going to get out of jail for a long time now, because he still has a warrant out of West Roxbury. He's got all these open cases. Like, he's going to be there for a while. Maybe when he gets out, we'll see if he found Jesus.
Oh, and the thing also is, you brought it up, like he's so much lying. You wouldn't would an interview even accomplish anything, or
Nothing.
would he just try and get you or other people on his side? It wasn't his fault. Blah blah blah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It'd be interesting
Absolutely.
to see how he tried to spin it, though.
I mean, I can already I could probably tell you that he would blame Danielle now for everything, because they're no longer together. And he would play the sympathy card. She scammed me. She did this. She did that. Like, as much as he could put off, because that's what he does. I talked to a billion of his exes at this point. Like, we covered him for probably a year total. The YouTube thing is new. A lot of people didn't know who we were until I started to realize, like, hey, everybody that watches this jackass is on YouTube. We've been writing about this for 6 months, and nobody's hearing us, right? Like, they were acting like it was new news. Like, no, we said this a while ago. But I really went in depth, and like I feel like I know the kid, even though we've only spoken a handful of times, and that's what he does. Like, as soon as the relationship dissolves, it's the girl's fault. So I mean, I already know how he'd spin it, and it's not true. I mean, I'm sure there's grains of truth to it, but overall, no, I don't think it would be productive.
Yeah, that's actually how I discovered you guys. So I was on one of Auditing America's videos, and someone said about his past. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know his name. Let me do a Google search on it. And lo and behold, what was one of the first things I saw? A Turtle Boy blog sport about Anselmo. I'm like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
so this is who this is. I'm like, okay. And it had all kinds of stuff on it. I mean, it was, you guys
Yeah,
definitely.
I wrote that one. Yeah, I did.
It's one of those things, like I always say, I don't ever want to get on the bad side of Turtle Boy Sports, because they will uncover what I did in Antarctica on the 4th of February 1945, even though I wasn't even alive.
I see. That's like a common misconception, though, and like, no, I mean, plenty of people piss me off on the internet for a variety of reasons. I'm an asshole. I really don't feel the need to dig on everybody, because there's shit on me. Like, it's already been kind of, leaked out there little by little. I have been a shitbag in my past. I think that you would be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't at some juncture, right?
Very
Like,
true.
I'm fair, right? Like, it's about the evolution to me. But what I really take issue with, and what I'll dig on you for, is if you are blatantly lying to people on the internet, particularly if I feel like it's self-serving, right? Like, that's when the gloves come off. And yeah, we can dig up a lot. We're pretty resourceful. But no, I mean, like, I feel bad, because I feel like we would have more critics if people didn't have this like nagging fear of like, oh my God, they'll come after me next. Like, I can at least speak for myself and say, like, no, I won't. I love my critics, because it's constructive criticism, which I need. Otherwise, there's no growth. Number two, it keeps me humble, right? Because if I'm in an echo chamber where everybody's like, oh, Bristol, you're awesome, then it's going to go to my head. I don't want that to happen. And, number three, like, sometimes you're just right. Like, sometimes I do just suck. Sometimes my writing is off. Sometimes I sound dumb on YouTube. Sometimes I look really fat, and that's okay.
Okay, I got you. Okay, and the next question is from Tim Berry. He wants to know, do you ever worry about any type of retribution, legally or otherwise?
I suppose I should more. Not really. I mean, the most I can say is legally, yeah, but not in the sense of like I feel like it's coming enough that I try to be extra diligent in what I publish. But that's kind of twofold. It's not only because I don't want to be sued, it's because I don't want to say anything that's not true and risk my own credibility, or, destroy somebody's reputation over nothing. So, I mean, yeah, I'm cautious about it, but no, I don't lose any sleep at night.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and Davey M would like to know. Oh, actually, never mind. We already covered that. But he also want to know what made you get into what. Oh no, actually no, we didn't cover it. What made you get into what you do?
Excuse me. In what context? Like
That's
the auditors, or?
He didn't really specify. So.
I mean, I don't know. I've always tried to write. That's pretty much where that started. Like, I've always been interested in it. I self-published a couple books when I was a teenager. Please don't look them up. Yeah, it's embarrassing now, but I've always been a a writer, and as I got older and I had kids and got married and all that, it was something that I was like, well, that's not ever going to be a career for me. And then, I kind of fell into this thing, and I wouldn't say it's a career, but it's a hobby, and I enjoy getting a little bit of recognition for it. Absolutely. And I like having an audience, and, more than anything else, I like the connections that I make with people over this, right? Because I've made like just awesome friends, both in real life and over the internet and stuff. And it's great that, that these common shared interests and this natural curiosity really can connect people.
Yeah, definitely. I would totally agree with you on that.
I'm glad I met you, Kenny.
Oh, great. I'm actually glad I met you because if without you, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing and having as much fun as I am. Even with all the people that are getting on me about, certain auditors that, you deal with. But that's, anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, no, but you're doing a good job, and I always appreciate, like, I know that, like, I'll hear it from Anselmo a lot through the, too small for me. Like, there's no such thing, right? Like, nobody is any better than anyone else on the internet. You might go viral today. People will fucking forget about you tomorrow, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's awesome whenever anybody has the balls, like what you're doing, to be like, you know what? I'm going to make my own contact, because your voice matters. Your voice matters just as much as anybody else's. And I love what you're doing. I like what everybody's doing, though. Like, it's cool to me, like, this kind of YouTube community that's creative and curious, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of people are worried about the new TOS. I don't think the TOS is going to affect as many people as everyone's worried about, simply because I think they're more geared towards maybe like the sock type accounts and, the accounts that are blatantly going out there and ripping off people and stuff like that. That's my personal opinion on this new TOS.
I don't know. It's always like, so I don't know how much you know about Turtle Boy or not, but we've been shadow banned, struck down. Uncle Turtle Boy is actually permanently banned from Twitter on his IP. So he can't even, like, his wife can't use Twitter. Like, yeah, we've definitely been hit by terms of service. Sometimes maybe it's justified, other times no, I don't think that it is. But, it's always a precarious situation for us when new terms of service get rolled out, because it's like, all right, like, some of the stuff we do is controversial, polarizing, like you said. Some of it, like, yeah, I can see that it's objectionable. I think that, to a certain extent, what we do is necessary, because for every action in the universe, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? And that's kind of what we are. We're the reaction. But I understand, like, I think they call it creator on creator bullying. Like, yeah, we could get hit for that. It doesn't matter that, like, from my perspective, I feel like I'm sticking up for people more than just trying to tear them down, right? But not every platform is going to see it that way, unfortunately. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. Okay, so now these last couple questions are going to come from Taze Auditors Laugh Like Hell. I just love his name.
I do. Me too.
Just a great username. He's a great guy too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so he would like to get your opinion. I guess we kind of covered the AV hospital situation.
Yeah, no, it was just, another example of, I think, the police are getting too hip to this at this point. Like, there's been a lot of internal memos that have been thrown around. At one point, the Department of Homeland Security was starting to eye these guys as some sort of threat. So they've really had a lot of discussions about how to deal with it. So they're just moving on to other, I don't know what the word I'm using, places of business or groups or demographics that don't know how to deal with this yet, and they don't have a line. And that's a perfect example of where there's no line. They don't really care that it's privately funded. They don't care about HIPAA. They don't care that these people are literally, working some of the most high-pressure jobs you can imagine. They're going where they're going to elicit a reaction. End of story. Totally out of line, but that's what they're doing.
Okay, great. And, his last question is, it kind of goes back to one of Christina Mackle's questions. He wants to know, are you going to investigate more West Coast auditors? You kind of already mentioned that, yes, you were.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I kind of go through phases, too, which I understand, like, this YouTube thing, people don't know the blog that well, but, like, I'll, kind of hyper-focus on a topic for a while and then be like, I'm going to put that down. But auditors is something that, yeah, I'll probably go back to for a while, because it's just, first of all, it's good content. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And, second of all, these people are still making money off of lies, and I take issue with that. And, I've kind of charged myself, my own little corner of the internet anyway, about, to debunk these lies. And God knows there's still, so many of them out there. And, we're still waiting on Patty's legal issues, seeing what happens with that, obviously. Earl Warden's legal issues, we would kind of see the outcome of that. Yeah, we've looked at who's that, SGV and Minnesota Guardian,
Oh
Furry
God.
Potato, obviously. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many out there that, like, yeah, we'll go back to it eventually.
Minnesota Guardian is just.
He's a punk. I mean,
He
I
really
don't.
is. It's like I saw this. The first thing I saw of him was he just kind of like walk. It was when he got arrested. He went up, just kind of walked up to this lady. She was sitting down. He just starts filming her. Just walks up right up to her in her face and just starts filming. She's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's kind of like, "Huh, what?" It's like, really, dude? Like, come on. So I really did laugh when he got his phone taken away from him. I know it wasn't right, but to me that was like karma for real
Yeah,
coming
I
back
mean,
on
no,
him.
I mean, it wasn't right. Well, it's such a hard line because these people are looking at it very selfishly, right? It's my rights, my rights, my rights. They put police in a shitty situation, particularly when citizens get involved in this,
Yeah.
because it's like now the police, at least some police, and you can kind of see it play out when these things happen, want to protect the privacy and the rights of the other people around, right? They're private citizens. You can't hold them accountable for, constitutional issues because they're not. They're just people. And I think it's pretty disturbing the way that I have yet to see an auditor that hasn't done this at one point. They will pick fights with random people on the street and film them. You don't know their situation. You don't know if it's a domestic violence victim that is hiding out. You don't know if they're in witness protection. You don't know if they have some sort of crippling social anxiety to where, the idea of being on the internet for all of eternity, essentially, because it's written in ink, it's not written in pencil, the internet, is going to keep them up at night. You don't know if they were having a really terrible day and that's not how they want to be seen by a million strangers. Like, there's just so many issues that I take with them filming random people in public. And, at one point I had done that stupid, weird, boring little, like, I'll try an audit thing. And I felt weird the whole way through. Like, just the whole way through was bizarre to me because it's like, it's creepy and voyeuristic almost, like just sitting there filming these lobbies, and it was very boring. Nobody bothered me, but I felt the most uncomfortable when people would walk in to that lobby because I'm like, I don't know why they're there, and I feel like a weirdo just sitting there filming them. And I would always kind of divert the camera, and I know I got some flack for editing the video up. It was, I had probably 45 minutes of footage. It got down to 3 minutes because it was boring. It was a lot of empty lobbies, and I would divert the camera every time that somebody walked in, or if I caught them on camera, I wanted to edit that out because it's like, they're just random people. They don't deserve to be memorialized on the internet for all of eternity for that time that they had to go in and, report a crime or file an accident report or something. Like, it's just weird.
No, I totally agree with you. And that is one thing, like, towards the end, before Josh got arrested, he was actually trying to not film people when he went to certain places, too. He didn't catch everyone all the time, but he didn't make it an effort to film people, unlike Anselmo and Will.
Right.
Speaking of Will, have you noticed since the arrest, he has been so subdued.
Dead silent.
I mean,
Dead silent. Yep.
he is just, he has changed his whole persona. He is like a completely different person.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to bother him as long as he's not bothering random people on the street. You know what I mean? Like, ideas are crazy, but we need all sorts of ideas. So that's fine,
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so thanks for giving me some time to ask you these questions and the people. I'm sure they will enjoy it. And before we go, can you give us any kind of maybe sneak peek of your true crime story a little bit, maybe?
I mean, this is like, yeah. It's a case that's been going on since 2006. It involves a former Somerville police officer that was accused and subsequently convicted of raping his 2-year-old niece.
Ooh,
which is
good.
Yeah, no, it was the case is horrifying. We're actually going to have to put one of those like disclaimer, like sensitive audience things on it, which we've never really done before. It is that horrifying, but
Age
kind of the twist to it is that even though he was convicted and sentenced to life, he's actually been granted a new trial and he's out on bail right now. So yeah, which is, I mean, without giving too much away, we're probably not going to solve this case. Like, that's not what we're going in to do.
Right.
We want to present all the facts as they come. You can see probably about 2 to 3, maybe even 4 different avenues and possible scenarios with this case that weren't necessarily covered in the first trial. So what we're trying to do right now is just kind of go through and good sense of the facts of the case, the timeline, all the players involved. We've been fortunate enough to be able to reach out to one of the detectives that was originally on the case, who's since retired. So, I mean, it's pretty riveting stuff, I think.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'm
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that. And
me too.
I'm so upset just to hear that he's out on bail. Just like,
Yeah,
wow.
we were too at first. We definitely, it's like, nobody's talking about this. Why? And you see that he's appealed several times and lost those appeals. But the more you look into it, we can't say whether he's, actually guilty or innocent or what right now. So, I mean, we're, not necessarily going to be able to give those answers, but we are pulling up as many facts as we can.
Okay, well, this is going to be fantastic. All right, so it was great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you for your time.
You had some awesome answers, and hope we can do this again. I would love to come on your guys' show,
That would be great. Yeah.
and you are also welcome whenever you want on here. Maybe next time we could actually have a nice debate about different things.
Oh, sounds good. All right, Kenny. Well, you have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.
All right. Okay. All right, there we go, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening. And if you like, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you enjoyed, you want some more content, go ahead and hit subscribe. And I will be conducting some more interviews. I'm actually the next one. Hopefully, if everything works out, will be with the auditor. I will be posting more on that as it more becomes known. I'll let you guys know, and we'll do the same thing. Give you guys some time if you guys want to ask them a question or whatnot. We'll just go around the same formula we did for this one because I thought that worked out pretty well. Anyways, you guys drop a comment, let us know what you think, and let me know what you think. And I'll see you again next time. Later, guys.